Still working on chapter 5, we're going to move on to the muscles. Our first muscles we're going to find are found on the chest, and they are the pectoral muscles, which you've probably heard of your pecs before this course. But there's actually two pectoralis muscles. We have pectoralis major, which will be the bigger muscle, and it's going to be more superficial, whereas deep and underneath this bigger one is the smaller pectoralis minor. So as we take a look, over here on this side of the screen, we have our pectoralis major. So this is the bigger, more superficial chest muscle. Now, where pectoralis major is going to be originating, as you can actually see on this picture, it's going to originate on parts of the clavicle, parts of the sternum, and also the costal cartilages of some of the ribs. It's going to, if you follow the fibers all the way over here, you'll see where it inserts, but it's going to insert on the greater tubercle of the humerus. What it's doing, you can imagine if this part of the muscle over here were to come closer to its origin, it's going to be involved in flexion of the humerus, also adduction of the humerus, going to bring it closer to the body. It's going to lift the arm slightly upward, and also medial rotation or internal rotation of the humerus. Now, the nerves that are going to innervate pectoralis major are the medial and lateral pectoral nerves. Just underneath it, we can see we've taken a little cutout of pectoralis major. We see our pectoralis minor, so it's a much smaller muscle compared to pectoralis major. And what pectoralis minor, where it's originating, is it's going to be originating on the superior margins of the third, fourth, and fifth rib, which is what you see right here. There's different parts to it right there. Now, following this all the way up, pectoralis minor is actually going to insert on the coracoid process of the scapula. And what it's doing is it's going to actually depress the shoulder. So it's going to bring the scapula downward. You can imagine the fibers, this side, this is the insertion, comes closer to the origin. It's going to cause the scapula here to go down. Pectoralis minor is going to be innervated by the medial pectoral nerve only. Moving on to the deltoid, this is the shoulder muscle. There are actually 3 different fibers found in this muscle, and so the fibers are just named after where they're orientated, the anterior, lateral, or posterior. Sometimes you'll see the lateral called the middle fibers. Their actions are going to be kind of what really distinguishes them. They do different things. So here's a deltoid. You can see it from an anterior and a posterior view. And where it's going to be originating, again, you can see it on the picture here. It's going to originate on the clavicle and also the spine of the scapula and parts of the acromion. If you follow the fibers down, especially on this side, you can see it actually inserting onto that deltoid tuberosity of the humerus here. And what's going to happen is, let's go ahead and divide this muscle up. Right about here. Now on your cadaver pictures, you'll see a little bit better view of this, but these will actually separate out into 3 different fibers. All right there. So there's going to be an anterior fibers, which are these right here, this section of the muscle. And what they are doing is they are going to cause flexion of the humerus. So if only these fibers were to contract and go up to the clavicle here, the humerus is going to lift up, which is flexion. The lateral fibers, which you're seeing right here, or also called the middle fibers, what they're going to do is abduction, abduction. So if these contracted and moved closer this way, the humerus is actually going to move away from the body, and that's abduction. The posterior fibers here, if these contracted, what they're going to do is they're going to cause extension of the humerus. It's going to move the humerus backward. The deltoid muscle, all of the fibers are going to be innervated by the same nerve, and that's going to be the axillary nerve. We also have a muscle called serratus anterior, and that serrated, just like a serrated knife, means sawtooth. This is going to be innervated by something called the long thoracic nerve, and when this nerve's damaged, it actually will cause this muscle to not hold the scapula up against the rib cage, and it causes a condition called a winged scapula.